The second-grade classroom was buzzing with activity. Laughter and chatter filled the air as kids worked on their art projects. Marcus, a bright and curious 7-year-old with dark, curly hair, was hunched over his desk, carefully coloring a picture of a rocket ship. "Marcus, is that the best you can do?" came the sharp voice of Miss Stevenson, the teacher. Marcus's head snapped up. His classmates turned to look at him, their giggles cutting through his embarrassment. "I mean, really?" Miss Stevenson continued, her tone dripping with disdain. "You can't even stay inside the lines." "Typical." Marcus frowned, unsure of what typical meant, but he knew it wasn't good. His cheeks burned as he quickly put his crayons down. Later that day, during recess, Marcus sat alone under the big oak tree, twirling a blade of grass between his fingers. He didn't feel like playing with the other kids. "Why does Miss Stevenson always pick on you?" asked Jasmine, one of his classmates, as she sat down beside him. Marcus shrugged. "I don't know. Maybe I'm not good enough." Jasmine frowned. "That's not true. You're smart. And your rocket was cool." "Then why does she always look so mad at me?" Marcus asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Jasmine hesitated before saying, "Maybe it's because you're different." Marcus didn't understand what she meant, but the words lingered in his mind for the rest of the day. The next week, the class was working on a group activity when Miss Stevenson's voice cut through the room like a blade. "Marcus, what are you doing? That's not how it's supposed to look." Marcus froze. His hands, which had been arranging colored paper on a poster board, trembled. "I've told you before, you need to listen." Or is that too hard for Miss Stevenson's words cut deeper than Marcus could understand? His classmates turned to stare, some snickering, while others looked away awkwardly. Marcus felt a lump in his throat as Miss Stevenson stepped closer. "I don't know why I even bother with you," she said, her voice loud enough for everyone to hear. "Maybe if you spent less time daydreaming and more time paying attention, you wouldn't be so useless." The room went silent. Marcus's eyes filled with tears as he stared at the floor. Suddenly, the shame and confusion became too much. He bolted from the classroom, his small feet pounding against the hallway tiles. Marcus ran all the way home, tears streaming down his face. When he burst through the door, his father, James, was sitting on the couch, reading. "Marcus!" James stood up immediately. "What's wrong, buddy?" Marcus collapsed into his father's arms, sobbing uncontrollably. It took a few minutes before he could speak. "Daddy," he sniffled. Am I ugly?" James froze, his heart breaking at the question. "What? Marcus, why would you even think that?" "Ms. Stevenson," Marcus mumbled. "She always yells at me and says mean things." Jasmine said it's because I'm different. "Is it because of my skin? Is it because I'm ugly?" James felt a surge of anger rise in his chest, but he kept his voice steady for Marcus's sake. "Listen to me, son. You are not ugly. You are strong, smart, and kind. And your skin is beautiful. Don't ever let anyone make you think otherwise." Marcus nodded weakly, but the pain in his eyes lingered. James hugged him tightly, silently vowing to make this right. The next morning, James marched into the school and demanded to see the principal. After recounting Marcus's experience in detail, the principal assured him that the matter would be investigated. But that wasn't enough for James. He filed a formal complaint with the local police, citing emotional abuse and discrimination. He also contacted a lawyer to press charges for the psychological harm done to his son. When Miss Stevenson was informed of the legal actions being taken against her, she was shocked. She requested a meeting with James, hoping to smooth things over. In the school conference room, Miss Stevenson sat nervously, her hands fidgeting with the hem of her blouse. James entered, his expression firm but calm. "Mr. Carter," Miss Stevenson began, her voice shaky, "I just want to say how sorry I am for any misunderstanding. I never intended to hurt Marcus." James raised an eyebrow. "Misunderstanding? My son came home crying because of you. He's 7 years old, and he's already questioning his worth. That's not a misunderstanding, Ms. Stevenson. That's abuse." "I didn't mean it like that," she stammered. I didn't realize how my words might have come across. Please, Mr. Carter, don't ruin my career over this. I'll apologize to Marcus. I'll do whatever it takes. James leaned forward, his voice steady but sharp. This isn't about your career. This is about the damage you've done to a child who trusted you. Do you have any idea what it feels like for a little boy to wonder if he's ugly just because of the color of his skin? Miss Stevenson's eyes filled with tears, and she looked down. I'm so sorry. James stood up, towering over her. You're going to do more than apologize. You're going to take responsibility for your actions, and you're going to make sure this never happens again. To Marcus or any other child. Later that day, Miss Stevenson publicly apologized to Marcus in front of the class, tears streaming down her face as she admitted her mistakes. I was wrong, Marcus, she said, her voice trembling. You're a wonderful student, and I'm so sorry for the way I treated you. Marcus nodded, still unsure how to feel, but he appreciated the words. At home, James sat down with Marcus, pulling him into his lap. How are you feeling, champ? Marcus shrugged. Better, I guess. But why was she so mean, Daddy? James took a deep breath. Sometimes, people don't understand how their words and actions hurt others. But what matters is that you never let anyone make you feel less than who you are. You're amazing, Marcus. Don't ever forget that. Marcus smiled for the first time in days. Thanks, Daddy. James hugged him tightly, silently promising to protect his son from the injustices of the world, one step at a time. Words have power. They can hurt or they can heal. It's up to us to choose which path we take.